Okay, folks, this is Tara Dhakal. He's an associate professor in the Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering at the Watson College at Binghamton University. He is the director of the Center for Autonomous Solar Power. Tara received his BS from Tribhuvan University in Nepal, his MS from Binghamton University, and his PhD from the University of Florida. His research interests include renewable energy, in particular solar energy, with the research goal of achieving solar cell technology that is environmentally benign and economically affordable. In the last few years, he has been using earth-abundant and non-toxic materials to fabricate solar cells so that the cost of electricity from solar cells becomes comparable or lower than that obtained from fossil fuels. His other interests include thin film semiconductor devices and sensors. His talk today is titled Solar Energy, Sustainable Source of Power for the Clean Future. Okay, Tara.
Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. First of all, thank you, Carl, for invitation and a very nice introduction. So as you heard, my name is Tara Dhakal. Today I'm going to talk about solar energy and some of the activities that are going on in Binghamton area. I have dared to, I guess, do something today that will make you a solar expert as well. Okay, let's see how that goes. Can you hear me well?
Yeah.
Okay. So, well, about me, I think Carl just mentioned already, I'm from Nepal. I did my bachelor's from Nepal. I'll be short, but I did my MS from Shimane University, Japan, where actually I worked in superconductors. That was a fun ride. And I did my PhD from Florida. I'm a Florida Gator. And now I'm in Binghamton. I am also director of a center called Center for Autonomous Solar Power, where all the solar cell activities are going on. So if you may be wondering where Nepal is right here. There, that's sort of the size of Nepal as well. And you can see that on the upper part, you can see a little bit of white spots. Those are the Himalayas. We have, I think we have 800 kilometers range of Himalayas. And out of 14 tallest peaks in the world, there are 8 tallest peaks in Nepal, including the highest peak, that is Mount Everest. Just wanted to tell you where Nepal is. In case you didn't know, because when I came to the US, I came to University of Florida, and when I said I'm from Nepal, they thought I'm from Naples, Florida. Yeah. So in here, you can see the huge country, India. On the top, we have China. So it's sort of landlocked country between two giants. And there is a saying in Nepal that right now Nepal is a democracy, but just a few years back, we used to be constitutional monarchy. And the very first king of Nepal said that Nepal is a potato between two giant rocks. So what he was indicating is that you need to know how to survive, because you have to grow within those two hard, big rocks. But now the young generation, they don't like that idea. They say that Nepal is a dynamite between two big rocks. Anyway, why solar cells? I want to give some motivational aspect to it. I'm going to start with photosynthesis process. I apologize if I go too technical, but I try not to be, because I don't know the audience very well. So, but I'll try to make it simple. Photosynthesis process, I'm sure that we all know, it's basically uses carbon, uses plant and the sun. So plant absorbs carbon dioxide. Let me see if I can get a little pointer. So the plant absorbs carbon dioxide and water, and in the presence of sunlight, it makes energy for itself and releases oxygen. So the oxygen that we breathe today was because of photosynthesis process that happened millions of years ago, or that happened for millions of years, right? So the idea is that if you burn carbon, you will be consuming that oxygen that we use to breathe. And usually when we talk about, the greenhouse effect and global warming, we usually don't talk about it. We only talk about carbon dioxide, too much carbon dioxide, and that will absorb the heat that is radiated out of Earth and creates greenhouse effect, and then the rise in temperature. But there is one more thing, which is oxygen. So if you burn too much of carbon, you will be burning oxygen together with it. And to reproduce oxygen is a slow process, which is again photosynthesis process, but it's very, very slow. So of course we don't want to burn carbon too much. Keep in mind that burning, that's one effect, the CO2, having too much of CO2 will absorb heat. But at the same time, it will consume oxygen. That is a very, very fundamental thing of our survival, right? We are organic beings. So just getting a little bit on the greenhouse effect. I have these two, there's a graph here. There's nothing, the way I want you to understand is that the one on the left is the radiation of the sun. That's the amount of, the light radiation we get on Earth from the sun. And then Earth absorbs that sunlight and it gives up some radiation in terms of heat. So this part is on the right, this part is the heat radiation that is given off the Earth's surface. And we don't want everything to leave, but we don't want everything to be absorbed, okay? Absorbed. So by our atmosphere, you can see that this is the sunlight here, this is our atmosphere, and some of them will leave, some of them will be absorbed, okay? But we don't want everything to be absorbed. So here, this is actually this is the one. So this guy here, I'm showing it here. So the yellow part, this big thing is something that you see if you go outside the atmosphere, from inside the atmosphere, okay? This is what we see. But if we go outside the atmosphere, above the atmosphere, then we'll see this red part. That means, most of the yellow radiation, that is the heat radiation coming out of Earth, is absorbed. And there's just carbon dioxide, water absorbs the low intensity side, and there's methane. So methane and carbon dioxide are the worst greenhouse gases, right? If this red becomes completely gone, the red part, or the red part shrinks, the temperature of the Earth would be around 51 degrees Celsius. That's virtually uninhabitable, right? So we have to prevent. Of course, we don't have to go that high. It will be disastrous even well before that. But just the extreme thing is, extreme temperature would be 51 degrees Celsius when all the heat radiation is absorbed in our atmosphere. So there's a side effect. It's a greenhouse effect is, the extreme aspect of greenhouse effect is very bad, but there's a side effect to that, which is, I found that there's a lot of methane on the bottom of the sea in a frozen condition. You can see this. This is called actually, some people call it white gasoline or something like that. So it's frozen and it can burn. It's actually, and when it burns, it gives up methane, but it is in the frozen methane hydrate, which means methane plus water. So it's frozen state. It is good if it is frozen state. But if the temperature of the Earth gets higher, and if the sea water becomes warmer, the methane in the form of ice will start to evaporate, and that will be really, really bad for our atmosphere, because methane will be in the atmosphere, and that is a that is a strong absorbent of the heat radiation that is emitted out from the Earth. So that's sort of side effect. So far what we learned, we learned that we cannot burn all the carbon because this will produce CO2 as well as consume oxygen. And that is why we need to look for energy solution that is more clean and renewable, okay? And there are different sources I will show you, but definitely solar is something that will never run out. So that is why I got interested in solar. So that's the moving into different energy side. But people worry about economy, right? So is it a good economy? So I'm trying to make a case here that solar energy, investing in solar energy is good in terms of business. Of course, I'm not a business person, but I'll try to make some case here in front of you. So there are some studies that says that by 2050, the world will need 30 terawatt of power. Right now we are consuming around 13 terawatt of power. So very soon we will need at least four times of what we are using right now. So what is terawatt of power? If you don't know, in terms of horses, 1 terawatt power is equivalent to 1.3 billion horses, okay? So just, if you know in terms of what horsepower is, this is the 1.3 billion horsepower is 1 terawatt. It's a lot. What I'm trying to say is a lot. But it turns out sun gives us 120,000 terawatt at any instant and for free. That's a good thing. It's free, but of course, we need to find a way to convert it with a low cost. And that's where the whole game is, how to make very cheap solar cells. And as a business perspective, if you, if we need 30 terawatt and assuming that $1 per watt price for solar, it's a $30 trillion business. So it's a huge business. And there's a lot of activities going on in the US. Some of the major countries, US, China, Japan, now even India, they are trying to dominate this market. And as a matter of fact, more I see these days, I see more solar cells everywhere. You can see on the bridge here, this is Apple's headquarters in California. It's fully powered by solar. It's a zero energy building, zero emission building. You can see solar panels floating on the river and the sea. And the airplanes now, there are a lot of electric airplanes that use solar as well as battery combined. So how they're deployed? Let me see. Okay, sorry. So what people do is they make small cells first. Small cells. Solar cells actually are like batteries. Batteries store energy. Solar cells don't store. Otherwise, they're the same thing. They have positive polarity, negative polarity. The top one you are seeing is positive polarity. On the back side is negative polarity. But solar cells only produce power when light is shown on them. Batteries store power, right? So they have stored, they can function anytime, but solar cells need sunlight. So that's the difference. So solar cell is like an instantaneous battery. When the light is shown, it acts like battery. If light is off, it's gone, like that. So they make small cells and they connect them in series and parallel and make a panel. And then they deploy on the roof, the arrays of panels. So this is how it is done. I'm not going to go detail on how it is made, but maybe, yeah, I will maybe later on a little bit. And in your home, this is the case for US. This is how it is connected. You have solar panels. Solar panels produce power that is not, you cannot directly plug in your appliances like cell phone or stove or laptop directly into the power that is coming from solar panel. They use DC power. Don't worry about DC power. You need something here, the mediator, we call it. In technical term, it is inverter, but it's mediator. And the power that comes out of the mediator, you can now plug your cell phone or laptop or stove, anything, home appliances to here. And these are the meters. So what happens is that if you are during the day, if you are producing too much power, more power than what you need, that extra power is added to the utility. So you are making money actually if you're using solar panel. And there, so you will see that when you are making more power than what you are consuming, you will see the meter, the usage meter going backward. That means, your units are decreasing, number of units you're using is decreasing, that means you're paying less. If it goes to negative, then you will be paid, okay? So that's how it works. Let me now talk about types of solar cells. What kind of solar cells are out there? Very dominant, all the solar panels you see most of the time on the roof or on the farm, they are silicon solar cells. Silicon is dominating our life in everything. For example, your cell phone and your laptops, any electronic components, chips are made of silicon. So we cannot survive without silicon. Even the solar cell, the most efficient, most robust solar cells are silicon solar cells. They are 27% efficient. That is very close to theoretical value. Theoretical value for silicon is around 30%. You cannot make more than 30% efficient solar cell for silicon. So you're getting almost close to theoretical value. So they're very robust. Why the term robust is important here, because solar panels are deployed outside, so they have to sustain, different temperature variations, moisture conditions, rain, hail, and a lot of things. So they're very robust, but a little bit expensive. Although the price is coming down, silicon solars are still expensive because of the energy, a lot of energy required to produce them. Okay. There's another one. It's called concentrator photovoltaics or concentrator solar cells. They're very tiny. You can see here. They're very tiny. I call them tiny but mighty. They are 45% efficient. They're really efficient. Almost double of silicon, right? The way it works is they put this on the focal point of a mirror, and the sunlight is first sunlight is reflected off of this mirror, and there's a reflector here, and this reflector reflects back to this point where your tiny solar cells is located, and it produces 45% efficient power. And these are usually used in solar farms. If you may be able to see sometime like solar farms with this kind of mirror, and at the focal point of the mirror you have, at the focal point of the mirror you have this reflector, and this is another mirror, and that reflects to where your tiny solar cell is. The reason of being this tiny, and then the reason that they use this kind of mirror is because they want to concentrate the sunlight, make it very intense so that you can produce more power. Okay, so normal sunlight of Binghamton in summer at 10 a.m. or maybe spring, maybe April, at 10 a.m. that sunlight is called one sun. Around one sun. With this mirror, with sunlight being very concentrated, it is almost equivalent to 300 suns. But the efficiency won't be 300%, but at least double, which is a good deal. It is expensive as well. So that's why they are in the solar farm and from where you can draw the power. The third types we call them thin film solar cells, and they're flexible and very thin. And this is actually called the future of solar cell technology. They're fairly efficient, 20 to 25% efficient, but they are not very robust in terms of how they behave against moisture and heat and everything outside. Some of them use toxic materials as well, although in little amount. So those things had to be sorted out. But these are the future of solar cell technology. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you how we fabricate thin film solar cell. We are working on at Binghamton University. We're working at thin film solar cells. So one on the left, you can see this is actually a thin film solar cell made on willow glass, which is a flexible glass provided by Corning. And then on the right, it is on normal glass substrate. These are tiny cells just to test how they behave. These are not commercial cells. So you have top contacts. You can see these finger-like lines here. These are the positive polarity. On the back side will be the negative polarity. But I will show you how we make them. And I'm sure that you can understand this. If not, don't worry about it. Okay. So let's start. So most of these solar cells, you can see the green part here. That's this one here, very thin, around, I have said here, 2 micrometer. But I will tell you what 2 micrometer means. And most of this thicker part is the glass substrate, like the glass that you have, the window glass. This is basically window glass. And the solar cell is here, and you shine light from the top of the solar cell. Okay, so how thin is, these are called thin film solar cells. And the technology is called CZTS. Don't worry about this terminology. C is for copper, Z is for zinc, T is for tin, and S for sulfur. So these are materials that are very cheap. If I go outside and dig the dirt, I'll have all of these materials. It's very cheap. That's why we are working on this material. We call it dirt cheap material, basically. So how thin is 2 or 3 micrometer, let's say. So this is the human hair, which is around 50 micrometers. So this is our hair. And this is 1 micrometer. This is 3 micrometer. This is 10 micrometer. Dust particles are around 0.5 to 10 micrometers. So it's like a dust particle size. This thickness of the solar cell is only 3. So which is, if this is 50, 3 is like just a little bit here, right? This much is 3. So very thin. What I'm saying is we make very thin. Why it is important? Because solar panels are big, so you don't want to use too much material. So you want very, if possible, you want very less amount of materials. So how do we make it? Let me compare this with making cake, maybe, so that you can understand it if you don't have any technical background. So we start with this is where we start. For cake, you need some kind of container, right, to start. So this is sort of the base plate for solar cell. This is metallic. This is some kind of metals. And this is coated or grown by some fancy equipment here on the left. These equipments are available in Binghamton University in a lab called Nano Fabrication Lab. So we start with the base plate called metal, which is, let's say, positive polarity of the cell. And the next thing we do is we need, if you're making cake, you need a dough, right? You're preparing a dough. With the same machine, we can create, we call it precursor material, but it's a dough. This is a positive layer, okay? So like batteries, solar cells need positive and negative. This is like our dough, okay? Once you have the dough, what do you do next? You have to bake it, right? Like you bake the cake. We bake the dough in this furnace here at very high temperature, 450 degrees Celsius. That's much higher than the cake, but both of them bake. So we bake it now. This is ready to, this is a very, it's ready to be a good solar absorber after baking. And this cake is also ready, right? So once you bake it, do you start eating it, or what do you do next once you bake the cake? You need frosting, I believe, right? So let's put some frosting here. So you put a frosting here in the cake, the same way we put a frosting, which is thin. You see the frosting is much thinner than the main cake. It's the same way in solar cell. The main is this positive layer, the cyan, light blue color. But the green color, the top layer, we call it negative. It's like frosting for solar cells. So you need that. You have positive and negative both, okay? Now the next is, you know that this is good enough. I mean, this solar cell probably, if I test it, it'll probably good enough. It'll perform at moderate level like this cake. But if you have multiple layers, it'll, in case of cake, it will taste better, right? The multiple layers. So we put more layers to make solar cell perform better. The same way, the cake with other with multiple layers is tastier. So we put more layers. Now we have finished our, on top of it, we call it metal fingers. How does that compare with the cake making here? So on the cake making, we sort of write some messages on top. These fingers, you can compare them with these writings here, like Happy Mother's Day, if it is for Mother's Day. Some people have actually made solar cell looking cells as well. So this is sort of finished. Like now what we do next, right? What do we do after we are done? When we want to slice, I'm sure you're thinking you want to eat it now. Slice, we slice it. Right, it's getting a little slower here. Okay. So we kind of scribe, we call it scribing in case of solar cells. But in case of cake making, you slice the cake, you're ready to taste, and we're ready to test. Okay, it's a tasting versus testing. So this is how we test our solar cells, how well they're performing. The back negative, positive contact, top negative contact, we test it, and we taste the cell. So I'm sure that with this one, you are now a solar cell expert. Okay. Okay. Or should we do? I have a few more slides, and I will be done. I think you can ask. Okay, I have, I guess, 15 more minutes, right? So I'll be a little slow. I think I went a little too fast, maybe. So, what is happening in the southern tier and beyond? I saw that there's a new company called Ubiquitous Energy that has come to Binghamton. I think it's located somewhere in Endicott. It produces transparent solar window. So these windows are transparent as well as they produce electricity. They absorb light, but although they absorb light, they don't look dark. You know, most of the solar cells look dark or blue color, right? So they absorb all the light. But these solar cells, you have window already there. Also, at the same time, they're also producing electricity, as well as they are also controlling the amount of heat that comes to you to the room as well. So this is a new company that is in Binghamton right now. There's a website here. If you want more, you can look at it later. Another company that I had recently talked with is Suntegra. This company is in Binghamton. It's located in Binghamton. It produces tiles and shingles. You know, they are not bulky. They can easily fit to the roof. You can also use them as tiles. So this company is also in Binghamton. It uses silicon technology. I know that there's one company coming that is a flexible silicon solar cell for space technology. I have been advising them. They reached out to me for some advice. They will bring manufacturing facility in Binghamton. I cannot reveal the name because of it's still kept because of some confidentiality issue, but they are now negotiating, and they want to install the solar manufacturing facility right here in Binghamton. And that effort is being undertaken by a major local company here, which is established company, has all the capabilities. So they are trying to bring a silicon solar cell technology, which is light and flexible and will be applied to space technologies. Now there's so much solar market for space technology, because before it used to be only for, you know, those satellites and International Space Station. But now there are a lot of UAVs, unoccupied aerial vehicles, and electric airplanes, and so on. So there's so much in space technology now. And what we are doing, actually, we are working on a technology called perovskite, thin film solar cell technology. The name perovskite comes from this structure here, the beautiful structure you can see, the material that is used is perovskite, and it has that structure. And the solar cell structure also has shown here. So this is a new company that is a spin out from our lab. It is just established. It's called Pinwheel Solar, and this is the logo for it. And this logo was made by my daughter. Yeah, so it looks like a pinwheel as well as solar panels there. I don't have, I have not really, I haven't had a chance to make a good website, which we will, but it is just established now. So I'm excited. And we are Pinwheel Solar, and we have started to look into some joint venture with a company in Rochester. It's called EMC, Electronic Manufacturing Corporation. They do roll-to-roll coating of solar cells. So we are in a process of signing NDAs and then some material transfer agreement and so on. So we will probably collaborate with them. There's another company in Rochester that makes some coatings that improves the solar cell efficiency. So they are also interested in working with us. So we'll see how it goes. Sorry, spoiler alert. Okay, it's getting a little bit slower. There's one last slide I wanted to show you. Yes, this is the slide. So this is our department, the Electrical and Computer Engineering Department. On the second floor, this building is called New Energy and Science Building. This is located in ITC complex. So the facade of the building, it has some organic solar cells. It looks darker, but it's fine. It looks darker. It absorbs some sunlight and produces some electricity, but it is transparent. If you look from inside, you don't feel like anything dark. So if you ever come to Binghamton, the ITC complex, when you see this, you will know these are solar cells. On top of the building, there are a lot of silicon solar panels you can see here. And I think it produces around 130 kilowatt of power. That's quite a bit of power. Maybe not enough to completely power, maybe not enough to completely power our building, but a good portion of it will be powered through these solar panels. When we have kids who come to, we invite kids from sometimes elementary school, sometimes high school, give a tour to them. And I have done that over years now, and you know that younger they are, more hands are raised every time for questions. So this is my final message, which is let's go green and green. That's where I'll stop. Any questions, I'll be happy to answer. I'm done basically.
Every time we got our nice bill, they mail, it asks us if we'd like to go and invest in the solar solar business, and right now my husband refuses to do it because it's not cheaper than using regular energy. When will it become better for us to invest in? Do you understand what I'm
I'm not able to hear well. If Carl could type the question in the chat box, is that?
Were you able to hear the question? Or were you able to hear the question?
No, I was not able to hear the question.
Can you hear us? He can't hear us.
We are not mute, but yeah, the microphone isn't quite straight. Yes, it worked earlier.
Carl could type the question.
Mute. Okay, Tara, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, this is gonna get complicated with feedback.
Yes.
We're checking out our sound to see if we can improve it.
If there is a
Okay,
way
how's
to type the
that?
question.
Can you hear us now?
Your response.
Hear me?
Ah, technology, isn't it fun? Okay, Tara, the question was one of the folks here in the audience sees on the NICEC bill that they get each month a invitation to sign up for renewable energy. And her husband, who is also in the audience, has declined to do so because on the NICEC bill, the charges are extra. So if you go for renewable via the NICEC bill, your bill goes up. When could we expect that renewable energy actually starts saving money for somebody like a homeowner?
That's a good question. I'm not sure if I have the right answer for that, but I think it should not be too long because that DOE already has a plan to get the price of solar cell installed. So when we talk about price of solar energy, and if you just buy a panel, that's a different cost versus when you get solar panel installed. So if in some places like in some places where there's a lot of sun, where there are big farms, the solar electricity from solar energy is already cheaper than gas or nuclear, even nuclear. The electricity you get from nuclear is considered the cheapest, but even solar energy is cheaper than that. So the price is going down. I think that this is just my guess based on the activities that are going on and based on the adoption of solar energy, solar technology in the US. This is not too far. I can't put the number of years when, but not too far.
Thank you for that. I would like to add something from my own experience. 3 or 4 years ago, we've got in the mail an invitation from a local outfit that was putting in community solar farms. And they offered us 2 plans to pick from.
Mhm.
One was based on the cost of creating, installing, and managing the solar farm.
Mhm.
The other one simply said 5% savings compared to what NYSEG would charge you.
Mhm.
I have no idea how much it costs to build and maintain and operate a solar farm. And they were not providing rates that they would charge per kilowatt hour based on that. So we went for the guaranteed 5% savings relative to what NYSEG would charge you plan,
Mhm.
and we have not regretted it.
Okay.
So my sense is that I can't tell any more than you could a moment ago. In fact, you're the expert, I'm not. When rooftop solar might be cost effective. But I think the NYSEG plan, which I've also looked at for decades and similar to the gent in the room, said, something isn't quite right here,
Mhm.
where they charge you extra for green energy. That is a distortion in the market.
Mhm.
And in fact, the community solar farms, which seem to be sprouting all over the place, do offer a alternative that saves money. I recently learned there's another church further north in our diocese in a different electricity provider's district, and their community solar farm offered them a 10% guaranteed savings over their supplier.
Mhm.
So here we are, slightly envious, getting only 5, but we'll gladly take the 5, knowing that we're also doing something decent for the environment and God's creation while we are at it. So there are alternatives, and we've since moved to an apartment, as I think the folks here in the room know, and that account came right with us. So particularly in a situation where you don't have enough roof space to make a difference, or the roof is pointing the wrong direction for efficient solar energy, or you got trees shading your house, preventing efficient solar energy installation and use. These community farms do offer a alternative that's worth looking into.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that was, I think, that's the, you are an example, right? You have experience, you have saved money. I think, like you said, now that more solar farms are sprouting and you are already getting 10% savings, so that is more than 5%. I think it'll be more. And now there's one more thing that is going on, which is you have solar farms sprouting at the same time. There are a lot of companies, they are now making these battery packages, the huge battery packages that goes to a place like a solar farm, and they have guaranteed, like they give you guarantee on how much, guarantee on the lifetime of the battery, and how much they can store and all that. So combined with the solar and battery, I think that you can probably do everything by renewable means, and the price will come down as well. So I was in a conference recently where it was a webinar from a company called Zinco Solar. So they are a solar company, but they are also manufacturing huge battery package, which looks like, those the truck, the containers. So they are that big containers. That is for solar farms. And also I know that Lockheed Martin, or I think IBM or Lockheed Martin, I think it's IBM and GE, they are also working to make a megawatt level battery package that goes with solar. Of course, there are different sizes. There are homeowner type battery packages combined with the solar on the roof. So when you are producing a lot of power, you can store in the battery. The difficulty right now is that you have a battery and you have a solar, and you want to make a control system that is easy to use for everybody, because the people are not expert in batteries and solar and how it works. So how you interconnect them, how do you control them, make it as easy as possible, like using a cell phone, right? So that is coming, and a lot of has been done in just the last few years. I mean, I came to Binghamton in 2010 as a postdoc. There was nothing nothing much on solar. Right now, there are solar companies, there are solar farms. Actually, the solar farm that you mentioned, I don't have direct experience, but one of my friend and colleague, he said that he has signed up for that, although it may be a little costly at the beginning. For long run, it's pretty beneficial. So it's coming like a storm right now. So that's a good news. I mean, that's a good news. And I don't know if you heard about recently there was a major breakthrough on a different technology known as nuclear fusion. So the nuclear fusion technology is similar to making a sun right here on Earth. So basically combine two different atoms and make something else. During that process, a large amount of energy is released. So that's what happens in sun. Basically, hydrogen atoms collide and they form helium, and on that process they release large amount of energy. That's why sun is as hot as it is. So they're trying to make sun right here, but that will probably take, to commercialize that. There was some major breakthrough last week, I heard in different news channel, but that will probably, if things go well, seems like it's a major breakthrough. It will take another maybe century, but until then, we don't want to wait until then. So until then, the renewable can at least take over and produce energy that we need, as well as it will fight the climate change that we need to fight.
John Chafee, a colleague of yours in history, observed or took off on the point you made that the traditional solar technologies rely on expensive and potentially environmentally damaging components. And he wondered whether the Pinwheel company, wonderful logo, love it, whether that is focusing on the less exotic and environmentally less damaging materials. Is that something you can address publicly yet?
Yeah. It is actually, I have.
And how quickly can the adoption of the less toxic materials move into the industry?
Thank you for the question. That's a very good question. So I talked about age-old solar technology, which is silicon. Silicon is non-toxic. Silicon is non-toxic material, but some of the soldering that goes into silicon has some lead in it. Okay, but the technology that we are working in, the Pinwheel Solar, is about perovskite solar cell technology, and perovskites have lead in it as well. Of course, there are different types of perovskite with different elements in it, but the most efficient one has lead in it. But the amount of lead in perovskite is still less than the lead in silicon solar cell, the contact material. So it's still low. But at Pinwheel, at Binghamton, I had a support from NSF to develop perovskite solar cell without lead. So we have been working on this for last 3 years. And right now we have produced an ink of perovskite that doesn't have any lead in it. So it's going to be completely lead free. And the company that I mentioned earlier, Electronics Materials Corporation in Rochester, it has roll-to-roll facilities from Kodak. So they are interested to try our ink. So we are currently doing some material transfer agreement, and we will supply them ink because they already have experience with roll-to-roll. So it took us some time to develop that lead-free perovskite, but that's what the pinhole solar is all about. So stay tuned. And the process is very cheap. Process of making it very cheap. Everything is done. The ink is produced at room temperature. We don't even need any heat. And just to compare, the silicon silicon material requires 1500, around 1400 to 1500, even more at some point of the process to produce high quality silicon. It requires a lot of energy. But perovskites, some of the perovskites require 100 degrees Celsius. The perovskite we developed, the lead-free perovskite, is synthesized at room temperature. So it's very cheap process.
Thank you very much. That was a great explanation. We're looking forward to seeing the results of it out in the market. And we've reached the end of the hour here. And I'll leave the microphone on since there's folks here who really want to thank you via applause, and you should hear that. Thank you very much for your time. We learned a lot today. Bye.